saw the light and you've come back for episode 3 of Trucking Safety with Sam Watts. What is going on? I am Sam Watts, and this is my show called Trucking Safety, where, you guessed it, we take elements of trucking and we take elements of safety and we put them together. And we don't talk about just safety, we talk about trucking safety, okay? And how it is one of the most important things in a trucking company. Now, I know everyone's going to argue that freight is, and lanes and equipment, but no, it is safety, okay? Have I said that enough yet? I even named my podcast after what I truly believe. So, thank you very much for watching this third episode of Trucking Safety. It's going to be a great episode because last week we talked about acronyms, and now I figured, and I remember the word this time too, and I figured now would be a really good time to get controversial, okay? And so that's what I'm planning on doing in episode 3 is we're going to get controversial. And you might be thinking, wait a minute, can there be controversy in trucking safety? And the answer is maybe not, but it's a good way to get the views and the clicks, because we're all about the clicks around here on the show Trucking Safety with Sam Watts. So anyways, That's kind of weird. That was weird. That's what we in the business like to call an intro, and I think I've nailed it. So, anyways, but no, welcome. Thank you very much for tuning in. We actually are extremely happy because we have a sponsor, and I know what you're thinking. Someone would actually put their name to this show, and the answer is yes, one person. But no, we are extremely excited to have a sponsor on the show, Ewing Safety and Industrial out of Morris, Illinois. They do anything that you need safety-wise. So you need safety glasses, you need safety equipment, you need, we just ordered some crowbars from them. They've got it all, okay? So go check them out, ewingsafety.com. Fantastic company, fantastic owner. Can't say enough good things about them. And I'm so happy that they want to be a part of the podcast. Hopefully they don't regret the decision after today's episode or subsequent episodes after this. But regardless, thank you very much. ewingsafety.com. Go check them out. ewingsafety.com. So now I said we're going to be controversial, and I think we are ready to dive into the controversy. So I posted out there, I said, what would be the number one thing that a safety guy would want to look at when it comes to safety in a trucking industry? Now, there are a lot of things that fall under the header of safety in a trucking company. You've got insurance. You could even throw in maybe work comp in there. You got obviously equipment, maintenance, drivers, and all that kind of stuff. There's quite a large umbrella, which is usually why safety departments have a number of people in there, because even under the different categories, there's different levels underneath of those as well. There's just compliance things you need to watch out for. There's driver coaching. There's a bunch of different stuff. And again, I might sound like a broken record, but we'll get into all that eventually. Trust me, I've got this thing planned out for thousands of episodes. And you might be thinking, how could he possibly talk about safety for 1,000 episodes? I'm not quite sure yet. We'll see. But I've got other episodes planned out. But today, I wanted to just briefly talk about what I think is the cornerstone of what you should look for. If you were to get hired on as a safety director for a company, what would be the first thing that you should look for? And again, this is my opinion. This isn't to say that this is the absolute correct thing, but again, if it's my opinion, you better believe it's going to be pretty correct. But I know everyone kind of works differently. But what I think is the one thing that you should probably nail down and get right away is the driver qualification files, okay? DQF, as we of the business like to call them. Driver qualification files. This is the file that you have on each driver that shows that the driver is qualified to drive a 80,000 pound truck and trailer, okay? Now, there's a couple things that need to go in to a driver qualification file. And it used to be back in the day that you literally would just have a yellow, manila, is that the manila, I think is how you pronounce it, folder, and you put all this information in there. Well, times have changed. Now, there's companies that still have that, and that is, it's still good. As long as you have the information, okay, we can work with that. If you don't have the information, that's where we got to be a little more concerned. But as long as you still have the information in a file folder, Cool. You're on the right track. However, nowadays, thanks to COVID, and maybe it's starting a little bit before that too, but the federal government kind of figured out how to do what they call offline or off-site audits, meaning they just email you and then you have to provide them the information, sometimes in as little as 48 hours. So it's really important that if you haven't done so yet, that you scan the stuff that you need to scan in the driver qualification files and keep a digital copy of those. It just makes life so much easier. Plus, there's a lot of stuff in there that expires. And unless you have literally a paper copy of dates that you're writing down and checking every day, you might miss a couple things here or there. So it's best if you put it into a software, which there's a ton of software out there now that will keep track of different dates that you need to keep track of, and just let them do it. Okay, just let them tell you. I use one. It tells me 30 days out when like a med card's expiring or a CDL's expiring. It's fantastic because if you know, maybe you don't know me well enough, but if you do know, I am easily distracted and I'm easily forgetful. I will forget things moments after you tell me specifically not to forget something. It will go away. So if I don't write it down, it goes away. Then all of a sudden you got drivers out there driving with expired med cards, driving with expired CDLs, and it's just pure chaos. And it could be potentially extremely expensive if you get caught. So my opinion is you get your driver qualification files in order first, okay? The drivers that are with you, should they be behind the wheel, okay? So there's a handful of documents that need to go into the driver qualification file, and lucky for you, I'm going to tell you what they are. Now, there are a number of other documents that potentially could go in to the DQ file that don't necessarily have to be in there, but the ones that we're going to talk about are the ones that I like to put into my DQ files that I see or that I control, and I think they're a good foundation. If you have these in your DQ files, then you will have a thorough DQ file, okay? So first things first is you're going to want an application in there, a driver application, and you better make sure that it is a DOT, what's the word I'm looking for? It's DOT certified, basically. It's got all the information that DOT needs on it. The one thing that some guys that I've seen in the past that they kind of forget about, or they just kind of let the driver be a little lax about, is the 10-year history. If that driver has got 10 years of experience in driving, he needs to list out every company that he's been a part of for DOT regulations. The record I have seen, and I won't say who it is because quite honestly I can't remember his name. The record I saw was we got a resume in or an application in, and it had 40 different jobs in 10 years. So if you're good at math, like I am not, that means it's one job for every quarter of the year. So, the 3-month period, the guy had one job in between that. That is exhausting, okay? I don't know how you do that. You know how many orientations you got to sit through if you were to change your job every quarter? That would be ridiculous. Long story short, we didn't go forward with them. I know it's a shocker, but application. Make sure you have an application in there. Make sure that you know just even the basics. What's this driver's name? What's social security number? What's their phone number? Things like that. You got to make sure you have an application in your driver qualification file. The next thing that you're going to need, and these are in no particular order, so don't think that one's better than the other, or if I got this, I don't really need this because it was down on Sam's list. No, these are all in no particular order. The next thing you're going to need is a CDL, a copy of a CDL. Or hear me out, a road test. Okay. So this one is the one that kind of gets a little confusing because some people mandate road tests. Some people just take CDLs. You could do both or either, whatever. I like to do road tests. I like to make sure that the driver is comfortable in the truck. And when I do road tests, I take them out to the different yards that we have so that they can see where trailers are parked and where like the closest truck stop is. And I just want to get an idea that they know what they're doing. Like, if we have them back in at a truck stop, parking lot, and, if they take a while, that just kind of makes me wonder what's going on. Some guys just pop it right in there. Perfect. Cool. But I like to do a road test. However, if you don't want to do a road test, you can accept their CDL as a form of a road test. Now, the only caveat to that is if they are going to be pulling doubles or triples, or they're going to be pulling hazmat loads, you need to do a road test. Okay, you can't just accept their CDL. If they're going to do those, you need to do a road test with them. Okay, because obviously that equipment is a tad more dangerous. Not to say that the other equipment's not dangerous, but that, when you got doubles or triples and hazmat, I mean, if you roll a hazmat load, you have a nightmare on your hands versus if you roll a load of sofas. You know what I mean? So you need to either have a road test or a CDL on file in there. And now here's another thing that you need to make sure that you do. If you hire a guy on, or a girl, I'm not, picking whatever. If you hire a driver on and you take their CDL, and let's say their CDL expires, because that happens, do not throw away the original CDL that you had on file. Always keep the CDLs that you get on file, because if DOT wants to come in, or FMCSA, whoever wants to come in and do an audit, you want to make sure that you have that copy of the original CDL that they gave you, so that DOT knows that when you hired this person, they were, qualified to drive. So don't ever throw the CDLs away. Just keep them in the DQ file. No one's really going to get mad for having extra ones. Now, make sure you have a current one in there, but keep the CDLs on hand just in case. Okay, can you do that for me? Cool. All right. Now, moving on. There's a couple other ones. I wrote them down so I won't forget. Now, don't be alarmed. I'm an old man. Okay, and I know what you're thinking. Sam, you don't look that old. God bless you. But I am. I'm getting older. So, got to have some glasses, because without glasses, I am blind. Okay, and usually I wear contacts, but not today. Okay, so I want to make sure I don't leave any of the DQ files off the list. So I got to put my glasses on. Do not be alarmed. It's still me, but I'm just going to have more eyes, and my eyes might get a little bit bigger, okay? Are we cool? Everyone good? All right, I just want to make sure. Okay, so we got the application. We got the CDL. Next thing we're going to need is an MVR, okay, motor vehicle report. You need to run one of these so that you understand what the driver has in their past, and also make sure that their CDL is valid, because there will be times where a driver will apply for a job and their CDL isn't valid, or they don't have the correct endorsements. Like if you're running tankers or hazmat or whatever, you need to have that endorsement, and they might not, give you the CDL, or you might not have a copy of it yet. Quickest thing to do is run an MVR on them and see what they got on there. Also, it kind of gives you a background of their driving, or it doesn't it does. It's a motor vehicle report, so it'll give you a background of their driving record. There are times when it comes back and we go, ooh, this guy's got a lot of issues that he's had fairly recently. Now, there are ones that you can overlook, like, well, I don't know. It's all up to you what you want to do. But there are ones that I kind of are a little more loose on, like basically if there's an issue that the company had that he was driving for, like they weren't keeping up their equipment, versus them, like they've got 4 speeding tickets in the last 2 years. That's an issue on them. Okay, that's something that they're gonna carry on over to your company. So you got to make sure that you're okay with what appears on that motor vehicle report. Now, this is also something that you need to keep track of every year. You need to run an MVR every year. However, there are services out there that will do a continuous monitor of a person's MVR. So if something does pop up in the middle of the year, you get an alert saying, hey, this person, okay, so here's one of the common things that I have seen happen. And I know this sounds crazy, but this is probably more common than you think it is. A driver will have an issue, and let's say one of the big ones, and I'm not judging, but they failure to pay child support. That's one of the big ones out there. They have an issue with that. All of a sudden, their CDL gets downgraded. So instead of a Class A, they get downgraded to a B. Now, all of a sudden, they can't drive a semi-truck. They are not legally permitted to drive a semi-truck. If you don't have a continuous monitoring system in place with that driver is in quite a bit of danger as far as getting shut down and getting thrown out of the truck. And consequently, that means your load is in quite a bit of danger. If all of a sudden you have a driver out there somewhere and he gets kicked out of the truck, now you have a load sitting in the middle of nowhere that you have to now go recover. And it's more common than you might think it is. And the drivers usually have no idea because they don't get a letter. or they don't get the letter in time, so that because they're never home, so they don't get the letter saying that, hey, you have an issue with your CDL, you should probably get this figured out. And they just figure it out by getting into a weigh station, having a level 3 inspection done, and all of a sudden them going, you don't have a valid CDL. So keep in mind, with MVRs, it's not that much more expensive to do a continuous monitoring. I can't recommend that enough, just to have a system out there keeping an eye on MVR so that you're not shocked if something happens, so that you know right away of that, okay? But if you don't want to do that system, you have to run an MVR every year, okay? At least once a year, an annual MVR, just to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do, okay? So now, moving on. They need a med card, okay? They need a med card so that you can prove that they are physically fit enough to drive a semi-truck. A lot of chiropractors will do med cards, so they're not that expensive. Usually a med card, if they're younger and healthier, will last 2 years. If they're not, if they're a little bit older or, a little whatever, they will probably get a 1-year med card. That seems to be about the most common one. If they have some serious medical issues, I've seen med cards all the way down to 3 months. Okay. Now I'm sure they could probably write them even, closer than that. But if you have a 3-month med card, you have some serious health issues that really you need to address. Okay. I have also seen drivers not get med cards. That's a thing I like to preach to my drivers, is saying your med cards come and due in 30 days. Do not wait till day 29 to get that thing renewed, because you could have some health issue and the doctor will say, I'm not renewing your med card. I have seen it. Okay. So don't wait. Get that renewed as soon as you can, so that if you do have issues, you still have a valid med card and you can work on your stuff that you need to get worked on. A lot of times it's high blood pressure, diabetes, okay? So it's things like that they can control, or they can get under control, but they just maybe need a week or 2 or 3 to get medication going so that they can do it, okay? So if you have a med card that's expiring, do not wait, get it expired. On top of that, to go along with that, there is a national registry of medical professionals out there that the doctor who does the med cards needs to be on. And you as a carrier need to prove that that doctor is on there. So you just go to a website. It's through the FMCSA. You can type in the national registry number, which is found on the med card, and you can see that they've got it there. You have to prove that they're on that. What I do is I just take a snapshot of the screen and say, here we go. This is what they got. They're registered. The biggest thing, FMCSA, I think like a year ago, maybe it's been more than that now, went through and completely revamped their doctors that are on there, because they had a bunch of doctors that just weren't doing what they're supposed to do and all that kind of stuff. So they went through and they cleaned house. So it's very important that you go make sure that the provider on the med card is actually on this registry as well, because if they're not, the med card is invalid. Okay, so that means they don't have a med card. So you got to make sure that the doctor's on the national registry. Cool. It's not that hard. Do your work. The other thing that you need to do is the clearinghouse. And don't worry, we're going to get into the clearinghouse a lot later on, because it's a kind of a newer program. There's even still some drivers fighting to be on it, like they don't want to be on it, but it's a wave of the future, man. You're going to be on it, so you don't fight it. But the clearinghouse, that's your drug and alcohol enforcement, okay? That's your drug testing, all that stuff. You need to have a consent form signed by the driver, because the drivers have to submit to, or consent, I should say. I'll get it there. They have to consent to a yearly test, basically. So doesn't mean they're going to do it, but they have to consent to it. They have to consent to have their clearinghouse run, and you need their consent to do it. So you need to have a form filled out. Again, FMCSA, I think it's FMCSA has a form on their website that you can go grab, copy, put your name on it. Cool, whatever. You got to have that. Also, if you're going to have a driver drive for you, they got to do a pre-employment drug test. Now, I have seen some things where this is not part of a DQ file, or some people say it is. I don't care. Put it in there, okay? This is going to be a very important thing, because if they can't pass a pre-employment drug screen, they can't drive for you. It's just that simple. And I know this, again, might be shocking, but there are drivers that can't pass the pre-employment drug screen. There's drivers that can't pass randoms. It's sad, but it's out there. So make sure that you get a pre-employment drug screen done and get the results back that says negative, and put that into their DQ file, just so that you have a copy of it, so that you know that the person who's putting out on the wheel or behind the wheel has a negative pre-employment drug screen. Okay. All right. So we covered the consent. We've covered the pre-employment. One of the hardest things, and this is probably my least favorite part of doing driver qualification files, is the previous employer safety check. So if you bring on a new driver, you have to contact the previous employers and try to get them to say that yes, this driver was subject to FMCSA regulations and didn't fail any drug tests and didn't have any safety issues and all that kind of stuff. It's tough to get previous employers to respond to that. Now, there's companies out there like Driver Reach and 10th Street that are making it easier, but it still requires the other company to do some work. And when the other company doesn't really have a dog in the fight, so to speak, like the driver's already gone, they really don't care to respond too much to it. So this is one of the more difficult ones. You have to, in good faith, try to reach out to the companies and document it. That's the key thing, is make sure that you're documenting that you're reaching out, okay? Do the dates, times, who you're sending it to, and if they don't respond, they don't respond, okay? That it happens. But at least in your DQ file, you can say that, hey, I reached out at this date to this person. They never responded. I tried. They're not doing their part. So that's that. But that's always kind of the hardest one, especially if there's a lot of previous employers, because, you got to reach out to them, and sometimes they get back to you, sometimes they don't. It's just kind of up to that. And then one of the last things that you want to put in there is an annual review. So you got to go through the MVR every year, make sure that they don't have any new violations, all that kind of stuff. You need to have that documented, put in there as well. But if you have all that stuff in a driver qualification file, you will be in good shape. Now, there's other things that I recommend putting in there, like a PSP report, CDLIS, to make sure that, the PSP gets more into the accidents, CDLIS, make sure they are who they say they are, things like that. You could put that stuff in the driver qualification file. But if you have all this stuff in a DQ file, you will be in really good shape. Now, some of this stuff, like I said, has to be updated. So make sure that you're keeping an eye on those expiration dates, because more than likely the drivers won't. So I'm always amazed at how many times I remind guys like, hey, your Met card expires, or even better, your CDL expires. The piece of plastic that gives you your way of life is expiring in 30 days. And they go, didn't even know that. Come on. Got to pay attention to that stuff, okay? So, but make sure that you are paying attention. As a safety professional, this is key, okay? This is my opinion, like I said, is what I think is the bedrock of a safety program. Once you have this DQ filed, once you know that the drivers on your fleet should be on your fleet, are qualified to be on your fleet, then you can build it up from there, okay? Does that make sense? Feel free to reach out to me and tell me how wrong I am about all this. Again, I don't think I am, but us in the safety world, we like to spar with each other. So this is my opinion. You might have a different opinion. That's cool. You're wrong, but that's cool. So anyway, I'm just kidding, okay? Can we just have a little fun here? We're talking safety, for Pete's sakes, okay? We got to liven it up a little bit. This is cool stuff. This is important stuff. This is stuff that people need to know. Okay, all right. That's it. That's what I got for you today or this week on trucking safety with Sam Watts. That's me. Again, huge shout out to Ewing, ewingsafety.com. Go visit them. Go do stuff. If you mention my name, you won't get any discounts off, because that's not the situation I did. But if you say you heard about Ewing Safety from the Trucking Safety Podcast, you might get a high five. I'm just saying. They're cool people over there. So anyways, until then, drive safe, okay? And if you have any questions about any of this, feel free to reach out to me. I'm all ears. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, deep, dark secrets, let me know. Maybe not the secrets, but let me know, and I'll be more than happy to talk to you about that. So until next week, I will talk to you later.